Hi, welcome to this channel. My name is Maureen, and today we're going to talk about toxic productivity. So I know that I've made an episode on my podcast about side hustling, so I've touched already on the subject of toxic productivity, but there are a few things that I wanted to add and have it on video as well. And how I feel about side hustling and toxic productivity. You can call it side hustling, you can call it toxic productivity. That's also tied to the trend That Girl. The trend That Girl, if you don't know what it is, it's a trend on TikTok that is all about waking up at 5 a.m., do all your workouts, eat that celery juice, eat that matcha latte, and basically kind of proning that excessive healthy lifestyle. And I'm all in for a healthy lifestyle. I really am, if that what makes you happy, and if you're really into it and if you feel good while working out, of course that's what you should do. The thing is that it's also saying that you have your work 40 hours, and then next to that you already have to add all this pressure on yourself to be thin, being as healthy as you can, go to the gym 5 times a week. And I've been all into that side hustling culture. I've been into the trend That Girl before it was even a trend, where I was going into working out 5 times a week, waking up super early while working 40 hours a week, while also having all my adult life next to it. So doing laundry, cooking, doing groceries. And I became really overwhelmed with this feeling, and it to the point that it was almost really too much and I couldn't keep up. I ended up being so exhausted and so tired every day and just not being happy into what I was doing. And I think, for a lot of people, there is this sense of pride and the sense of, if the more I work, the more successful I will be. And it took me a long time to realize that that was actually not always true, because on the long term, yes, you might be successful when you work hard, but that might also come with a burnout and a sense of, I am never getting enough. I am never doing enough work. And the inability to rest, which in the end puts so much stress in your body, so much exhaustion when your body is on fight or flight or freeze in the survival mode. It's just really hard for it to keep it up on the long term, because in our bodies we're not supposed to be stressed, to have this adrenaline, the survival mode for a long time. It's only supposed to last for a few seconds or a few minutes. And today we're putting that pressure on our bodies. So obviously at some point your body, your mind, everything will shut down. And this is what really this hustling culture is providing. It's really what it's giving us, and making others feel guilty when they're not doing enough, because people get really proud when they say, oh, I'm working 12 hours a day or more. Like, oh yeah, it's hard, but it is what it is. And you can sense that they're kind of proud of it, of working more. And other people sometimes do feel guilty. I know that I've been on that side as well, where I was like, oh, maybe I'm not doing enough because they seem to do great, and I'm not doing enough because I'm resting too much, because I'm having too much fun. What type of life is this, where you're having too much fun, really? How could it be otherwise? And I really think when I listen to these people, they're kind of running after money to the point that, they don't really even know why they're doing it. It's just having more money. And we focus a lot about the numbers and all the side, and I get it, but it's also about focusing on the experiences that you can have with that money. And a lot of time when I ask people, okay, what if you had, I don't know, $1 million, what would you do with it? And usually it takes them a while to figure out what they want, yet they say, oh, I want financial freedom, I want $1 million, I want to win the lottery. But beside doing that, there's actually they haven't really given any thought about what they're going to do with that money once they have it. It's just having this sense of security inside their mindset, inside their head, that is going to keep them out of that survival mode. What I want everyone to know is that there's never going to be that stage, that level where you feel secure enough unless you work on your mindset, and unless you feel secure in the now and knowing that you have everything you need to right now. If you have food, if you have a roof, you have everything you need right now. And you have to focus on being grateful for the moment. Yes, of course, you have the right to have dreams and have hopes and working towards something. And you should, absolutely. But sometimes when we're running after something and always chasing something, it's just that when we're gonna have that thing, we're gonna move on to the next thing. Because we've trained our brain to think that way. And to think that we always have to run after something and we're never going to be satisfied. And that probably happened in your life before, where, you really wanted something and then you had it. What did you do? Did you celebrate it, or did you just move on right away to the next goal? And we don't take that time to rest. And after I was not an employee anymore, basically, I started really turning around this, because I realized that I wanted to become self-employed, to have more time, more freedom to do, the things I wanted next to my work. What ended up happening at the beginning is that I was always feeling like I was never doing enough, and I was working a lot towards it. I was working every day. Without even realizing, because first I loved so much what I was doing, but I was also in this mindset that I had to work all the time and that I was never productive enough, to the point that I was never able to fully rest, because even when I was taking those moments of rest, I was just always thinking about work and how I should be working right now. So this was really ingrained in my brain. And I realized that's the case for a lot of people. We're not able to rest. When we have those moments of rest, we don't allow ourselves to fully rest. And yet those moments are essential, because when you rest, you are leaving that space for your brain to think of other things, maybe have ideas that are gonna pop up, or maybe for external things to come up to you. I cannot tell you the number of times where I was focusing on something, waiting for someone to answer, waiting for things to happen. And suddenly I decided to go for a walk, I decided to go meet a friend, or decided to do another activity, and suddenly that thing will come up to me without me being focused on it. It's because I was able to, remove myself from that situation and just have the space for it to happen. And it always reminds me of one of my friends who says that they want to attract a partner in their lives. And the next sentence, but my schedule is too busy. I literally don't have time, because I have work, I have my projects next to it, and I'm seeing my friends next to it. So she just didn't have time for this partner to come in her life. But how can you expect something to come in your life if you don't let that time open, if you don't let that time free, if you're just too busy to receive it? Obviously, it's never going to come. And I think it's a very component as well of, manifesting law of attraction. We don't let things happen to ourselves because we're too focused on this hustling mode, on being that girl. And we don't let ourselves just being fully rested and in this present moment, which is so important. So the question is, how can you let yourself be rested? There are so many things that you can do. Like I mentioned, go take a walk, go do an activity that you like, go talk to a friend. Maybe that friend will give you some advice or will say something that will suddenly pop up an idea of doing something else that will actually help you. You never know how life is gonna, turn out, but you gotta let yourself be open to this possibility. And I've realized there's specifically this hustling culture in North America, so the United States and Canada. Yes, of course, it exists in other countries, but I've experienced it mainly when I moved to Canada, and firsthand when I was a student. I did not have a life when I was a student. That was also a choice, right? I chose to spend that time on all my homeworks that were given, on reading the books, and I was kind of shocked to be in that position, because when I was in Europe, I'm originally from Europe, and so I studied first in Europe, and there was a minimum amount of classes that you get, and you do get homeworks, you do get presentation, of course, but they also give you so much time to either work, or if you don't need to work, just enjoy that time for free and just having the fun that you need. And I love that. I was working, but next to my work, I also had time to, have fun and talk with friends. And I was really happy into that mindset and into having that. And when I moved in Canada for an exchange, I did not have that life. My life, when I was seeing my friends, was going to coffee places and just work on the computer all day, running on caffeine, and so much that sometimes I would just completely shake. Right? Is that healthy? No, I couldn't realize it, because as I mentioned, I loved studying what I studied. But it was already a sign that, this was a very different culture than what I experienced before. And I started to think that the more I worked, the more things I would get, the more success I would get, because this is what I've been taught unconsciously and by so many different people. You see a lot of famous people and they're like, yeah, I worked so hard. Or someone says for that person, yeah, they worked so hard to get where they are. And I just think, why? Why don't we allow ourselves to do things easily? And I've seen so many other people on the other side who are just working a minimal amount of time, and they are also having a great success, and next to that they can really rest and meditate and do amazing activities. And I just think, why are we making this complicated for ourselves when it can be easy? And when I was employed, I really realized that sometimes I was able to do my work in 4 hours. So that's if you don't work a shift, and in customer service, when you need to be a certain amount of hours, you need to be there. I was working as a buy-in coordinator, so I was working as an office person. And I realized that sometimes my work, I would just finish it in 4 hours in a day. And there was no other project, nothing else to do for me. But because I was paid by the hour, I had to stay until 4 or 5 p.m. So like a full 8 hours a day. The rest of the day, I was just here doing nothing because there was nothing for me to do. And that was very disheartening to realize that sometimes, you can be productive in a few hours, because that's what it really is. If you really focus for a few amount of hours instead of extending that focus, because we're only able to focus so much in a day, right? You cannot stay focused for 8 hours or more. The quality is just not there because you get tired. If you focus your work, in a shorter amount of time, you're able to do so much and ending your working day early. How amazing is that? That you have time. If you just decide to focus those hours into a shorter amount of time, then you get the rest of the day free to do what you want. And I wish companies would see things that way, because again, companies see things as productivity. You need to be productive. Productivity equals the amount of time that you spend on it. I think it's completely BS. I think, the more hours you spend, the less quality you bring into your work because you are tired. When you are able to have that rest for yourself, you are able to, come back to your work with a fresh mind, with fresh new ideas. That is so much more powerful than dicking around on your phone for 2 hours of the day where you could have spent those 2 hours doing something else. And that's really, the difference that I would like to see in this world. And most importantly, the difference that I would like to see in the corporate world. Because obviously when you're self-employed, you can decide your own hours and choose a different cycle for yourself. But when you're employed, it's a little bit different, right? Like I mentioned, when I was working by hours, when I was paid by hours, I had to stay there to have my full salary. Otherwise, I wouldn't be paid. And it was just really hard as a mindset, and what also really pushed me to go out of that corporate world and being self-employed. It's because I just wanted things to be easier in my life, and I wanted to have that time in my life that I didn't have before. I also, didn't realize all these things until I was outside of that corporate world. It was a choice to be in there. I chose it. And I blame both the corporate world and myself because that was a choice that I made. Of course, I needed money to survive, but that was a choice that I made to stay there and work all these hours. And being self-employed, I was still in that mindset of I need to do more. And it took me a really long time to get out of it. Sometimes I do fall back into it because it's so ingrained in me. And, we tend to compare ourselves to other people as well. And so we get these triggers sometimes. It's just about bringing this awareness within yourself, listening to your body, because it's going to tell you when you need to rest. And really take those breaks. Okay, if you're in a corporate role, if you're employed or even self-employed, really allow yourself to take those breaks when you need to. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. Just take it and know that you're going to be able to fully come back to your work in a better shape. Especially if you are sitting in a desk all day, stand up, stretch your legs, take a few deep breaths. You need that. You cannot be productive. You cannot do a good work if you glued 8 hours a day on your chair in front of a computer. No, sir. It doesn't work like that. So this is what I wanted you to take from this video today, is really trying to change your opinion on hustling culture, because sometimes we're in that culture and we don't even realize it, like it was the case for me. And I really want to open people's eyes on this subject because I think it's so important for our health. This is what it comes down to, our health. The more stress, the more work you do, the more stress you're gonna get. And when you put that stress on your body is not supposed to have that stress on the long term, and eventually it just shuts down. You either do a burnout, you either develop autoimmune diseases, you can have a depression, and it's so bad. And I'm just really sad to see people going through that when it could have been avoided, really. So please take care of yourself and really trying to change your mindset. I know for me what really helped is doing a lot of journaling about my experiences, about my feelings, about how I feel in my body. And you don't always have to talk to someone about it if you don't want to. Just put a journal and write it out. I promise you it helps so much. So I hope this video really helped you today. If it did, you can subscribe, you can like this video. Please comment, let me know your opinion on this. I would love to know about it. Sorry, my voice is shutting down. I would love to know your opinion, so don't hesitate to comment. And yes, that is it for today. I hope you have an amazing rest of the week, an amazing weekend, an amazing day, and that you really take that rest and that time for yourself. Okay, bye.